Hello and welcome to the KnowledgeStack Notion system. If you're watching this, you've probably felt that specific kind of burnout that comes from having too much information and not enough brain to process it. We've all been told that more AI tools and more productivity apps are the answer. But for most of us, they just accelerate the noise. They help us produce surface-level output faster, but our actual learning and deep thinking start to suffer. I built this system, the Notion Knowledge Stack, because I wanted to solve that exact problem. This isn't just another task manager for your to-do list. It's designed to be an executive function prosthetic. My goal is for you to develop a workflow system based on your cognitive state and task needs, with AI used to accelerate tasks where possible without all the hype. This system is specifically for the engineers, the researchers, the technical professionals, and everyone else who is tired of knowledge rot. We're going to move away from just managing time and start modeling your cognitive state. I'm going to show you how to use this system to detect when your brain is actually ready for deep work, and how to intentionally reinvest the time that AI saves you back into your own mastery. Let's dive into how this actually looks in practice. Before getting into the core functionalities, let's talk about the first line of defense for your focus: the cognitive queue. Think of this as your external RAM. We've all been there. You're deep into something complex, like working on deep learning paper synthesis, and the thought suddenly pops into your head: did I cancel my streaming subscription service? Or did I reply to that email? Normally, you have two bad choices. You either stop what you're doing to handle it, which kills your momentum, or you try to hold that thought in your head while you work. That holding on is what creates cognitive load. It's like running too many background apps on a laptop. Eventually, everything slows down. When that happens, just drop it here in the cognitive queue. Don't worry about tags, deadlines, or which project it belongs to. You're essentially parking the thought in a safe place so your brain feels permission to let it go. By offloading that data to the system, you clear your internal processors to get back to the deep work that actually moves the needle. We'll process these later. For now, your only job is to stay focused on the task at hand. Now that we've cleared our mental RAM, it's time to choose our next move. This is the energy context engine. In most systems, you just look at what's due next. But in the knowledge stack, we prioritize based on your internal state. If you've just sat down, you've got a fresh cup of coffee, and your focus is high, you're in a deep work state. You'll prioritize for high-load tasks, like draft 12-month timeline or draft proposal outline. These are the tasks that require your full biological processor. But if it's late in the afternoon and you're feeling that mental fatigue, you don't force it. You toggle to operational or quick-win tasks, like identify top 3 technical skill gaps for 2026, or literature review. By matching the task to your current energy level, you avoid the friction of forcing deep work when your brain just isn't there, which is how we prevent burnout in the long run. These categories, deep work, deferrable, operational, and quick win, define the priority quadrant in our system. The priority quadrant labels, number of categories, and how they are applied are all customizable. In the default setting, the priority is set as a function of the urgency and technical difficulty. If you adjust either of these properties, perhaps as a deadline comes closer, the priority will be updated. You can also adjust the function yourself to include other task properties that are most informative to how you work best. Navigating back to the command center, I can see the deep work tasks that I am prioritizing appearing as today's focus. This is a streamlined view of tasks that are front of mind for today. Again, the goal is to minimize the cognitive noise so that focus is maintained on the things that really matter for now. Now it's important to understand how we actually move the needle on big goals. In this system, projects are your high-level objectives, but a project is just a container. It doesn't happen all at once. It's fueled by individual tasks. The magic happens in how we link them. When you look at your energy context engine, you aren't just seeing a random to-do list. You're seeing the specific actions required for your projects, filtered by your internal state. This way, you're always making progress on your most important projects. but you're doing it in a way that respects your biological bandwidth. Now suppose I have a new project that I am going to call Deep Learning Paper Synthesis. I'll add this project to the project matrix. This is an active reading project which requires high cognitive effort. I'd like to get this done by the end of March 2026. Now for the important bit, I'm going to define specific tasks for this project. For purposes of demonstrating this functionality, let's define just 2 tasks for now. Read top 10 papers and determine key concepts across the papers. Once I've identified the papers related to this project, I can link them in the Knowledge Vault, as well as my summaries of concepts, so that all the information related to the project is tied together. As I move forward in this project, I can link progress as it relates to long-term goals in my weekly review. Now let's look at the project page. You can see the properties of the project automatically filled in from the properties in the database, but also a linked view of the task database where the associated tasks live. In addition, you can add more overview information about the project and any other information that is important to you. This is the beauty of my KnowledgeStack system. The system creates a workflow that you can individualize to you and your cognitive state. Returning back to the command center and energy context engine, we find the new tasks associated with the Deep Learning Paper Synthesis project are already appropriately triaged based on their priority quadrant. The project matrix and energy context engine define the where and when of your cognitive load. But now let's talk about the how. Once you've selected a task you're working on, you move into the External Cortex, aka the Knowledge Vault. This is the place where information stops being noise and starts being an asset. Now most people use AI to just write the summary so they can skip the reading. But this bypasses any learning on your part, which limits your growth and long-term potential. In my KnowledgeStack system, we want to use AI as a cognitive regulator. Instead of asking it to do the work for you, you're going to ask it to regulate your focus. For example, in our paper synthesis project, I'm not just looking for a summary from AI. Instead, I'm going to ask AI to identify the 3 most fragile assumptions in the methodologies. And what are the core principles that differentiate these methodologies from other machine learning models? By doing this, the AI acts as a filter, highlighting exactly where I need to apply my deep work focus when reading the papers. Our goal is to be better at work to increase our value, not to hand our value over to AI. We leverage AI to handle the rote extraction so that your biological brain can stay occupied with the high-level synthesis and critique. You aren't being replaced by the tool, you're being directed by it to the parts of the problem that actually require a human expert. The best way to integrate AI into a project depends on the nature of the tasks, but there are commonalities to the prompts that are useful to use. To keep track of these, I integrated an AI prompt database so that you don't need to resolve the problem of how to integrate AI into a new project that has similar demands to a current or previous project. Finally, I also include the tool stack directory, which contains tools that I have found helpful in my own projects. You can categorize these tools, link them, and identify how they fit into your own workflow. You can delete the tools that aren't relevant and add new tools as you go, so that you never lose that thing that you found to be extremely helpful once and can never seem to find again. We've reached the final and most important step. You've used the cognitive cue to protect your focus, the energy context engine to pick the right task for your brain, and the external cortex to regulate your knowledge. Because of that efficiency, you just finished a 4-hour task in half the time. In any other system, those extra 2 hours would just disappear into more work or mindless scrolling. But here, we acknowledge the intentionality gap. When you mark this task as complete, I want you to look at the reclaimed time property. Now that you are recording that there is 2 hours of time you can reclaim, the system is setting you up to make a deliberate choice. You're going to take those reclaimed hours and decide, am I investing this into learning a new skill to further my mastery? Or am I choosing deep rest to recharge my biological RAM for tomorrow? At the end of the week, you take inventory of your progress with the weekly review. This is a time to reflect on progress towards goals and document how reclaimed time was reinvested into you, keeping your long-term vision in mind. By closing this loop, you aren't just getting faster at your job, you're building a sustainable, high-level career. You're no longer just reacting to a to-do list, you're engineering your own growth. That is the power of the KnowledgeStack Notion system.